Captain Jiho stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber and felt the weight of 12 ancient species staring down at him. The chamber was massive, built to make anyone standing in the center feel small. It worked. Above him, the council members sat in their elevated seats, arranged in a perfect circle. Each represented a civilization thousands of years older than humanity. Jiho wore his dress uniform, the dark blue fabric pressed and perfect. His hands stayed clasped behind his back. He would not show weakness. Not here. Not now. The head counselor, a being made of flowing energy and crystallized thought, spoke in a voice that echoed through translation devices. Humanity has been judged. The verdict is decided. In the gallery above, Hana gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. She had argued for 3 days straight, pleading humanity's case. She had presented evidence, shown records of human cooperation, reminded them of the treaties Earth had honored. None of it mattered. "The charges are clear," another counselor said. This one resembled a massive tree, its bark-like skin ancient and cracked. Excessive military expansion, aggressive colonization, refusal to accept technological restrictions. Humanity has shown it cannot be trusted among civilized species. Jiho wanted to laugh. Civilized. These species had weapons that could crack planets. They had fought wars that lasted centuries. But when humanity built defenses, suddenly it was too much. "What is our sentence?" Jiho asked. His voice stayed calm and steady, the energy being pulsed with light. "Exile. Humanity will evacuate all colonies within council space within 10 standard cycles. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. All access to the jump gate network is revoked. You will leave, and you will not return." A murmur ran through the human delegation. 10 cycles was barely 2 years. Humanity had 47 colonies spread across council space. Billions of people would need to move. "Where do you expect us to go?" Jiho asked. "The outer dark," the tree counselor said. "Beyond the galactic rim. It is the only space we do not claim." Now Jiho did laugh, a short, bitter sound. "The outer dark? No species goes there. The dark matter storms would tear our ships apart. There are no resources, no stable systems. You are not exiling us. You are executing us slowly." "That is not our concern," the energy being said. "You have 10 cycles. Use them wisely." In the gallery, Taeyang leaned forward. He was Earth's chief engineer, a man who had designed half of humanity's newest ships. His mind was already working, calculating, planning. The outer dark was supposed to be impossible to navigate. But supposed to be and actually impossible were two different things. Hana stood and spoke one last time. "Please, reconsider. Humanity has made mistakes, but we have also contributed to the Council. We have shared our medical advances. Our agricultural techniques have fed 3 species during their famines. We deserve a chance." "You had your chance," a counselor shaped like flowing water said. "You used it to build weapons and take what you wanted. The decision is final." Jiho looked up at the council one last time. He memorized every face, every form. Then he spoke clearly, his words echoing through the chamber. "You will regret this. You think you are sending us away to die, but you are wrong. You are teaching us to stand alone, and when we do, you will regret that most of all." The council dismissed them without another word. Outside the chamber, the human delegation gathered in a tight group. Hana looked exhausted, her eyes red from sleepless nights. Taeyang was already on his tablet, pulling up star charts of the outer dark. Others argued in low voices, some angry, some afraid. Jiho raised his hand and everyone fell silent. "We have work to do. 10 cycles is not much time. Taeyang, I need ship designs that can handle the outer dark. Hana, start coordinating the evacuation. We move everything. Every person, every machine, every seed bank and data archive. We leave nothing behind that they can use." What about our weapons? Someone asked. The council thinks we disarmed the prototypes. Jiho smiled, and it was not a kind smile. The council thinks many things. Load everything onto the colony ships. Hide it in cargo containers marked as farming equipment. They will not inspect closely. They want us gone too badly. Over the next weeks, humanity moved with purpose. The council had expected chaos, had expected humans to beg for more time or fight the decree. Instead, humanity organized. Ships were loaded with calculated efficiency. Colony administrators received their orders and began moving populations. Minho, a decorated fleet commander, took charge of the Exodus fleet. He walked through the shipyards, watching as 847 colony ships were prepared. Some were old transport vessels, modified and reinforced. Others were new, built in secret shipyards the council had never known about. "Can we really survive out there?" a young officer asked him. Minho looked at the stars visible through the shipyard's dome. Somewhere out there, beyond the mapped systems and safe jump routes, was the outer dark. It was supposed to be death, but humans had survived worse. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had survived living on a planet that tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. "We will do more than survive," Minho said. "We will make them sorry they ever let us go." The 10 cycles passed faster than anyone wanted. On the final day, the last human ship left council space. Behind them, jump gates sealed and locked. Ahead of them was only darkness and uncertainty. But humanity had one advantage the council had forgotten. Humans were very, very good at surviving things that should kill them, and even better at remembering who had wronged them. The first dark matter storm hit 3 weeks after the fleet entered the outer dark. Minho watched from the bridge of his flagship as the sensors went crazy with warnings. The storm looked like a wall of purple and black energy, churning through space like a living thing. "All ships, emergency formation," he ordered. "Route all power to shields." The storm hit like a hammer. Ships shook and groaned as dark matter tore at their hulls. Alarms screamed. 2 colony ships on the outer edge of the formation lost power completely. Minho watched helplessly as they drifted into the storm's center and came apart, piece by piece. 7,000 people died in under a minute. "Get us through this," Minho said through gritted teeth. The bridge crew worked frantically, adjusting shields and trying to find a path through the chaos. When they finally emerged on the other side, 40 ships had been lost. That was just the first storm. Dr. Yuna stood in her laboratory aboard the science vessel, looking at readings that made no sense. The dark matter storms were supposed to be pure destruction, but her instruments showed something else. The dark matter was not random. It had patterns. It had structure. "It is energy," she muttered to herself, running the calculations again. "Incredibly dense energy." Her assistant looked over her shoulder. "Can we use it?" Yuna smiled slowly. "Maybe. If we can find a way to harvest it without being torn apart." She worked for 3 months straight, sleeping only when exhaustion forced her. The fleet lost more ships during that time. Every week brought new disasters. Gravitational anomalies pulled ships off course. Radiation spikes killed anyone who was not behind proper shielding. The void between stars in the outer dark was wider than anything in council space, and jump drives barely functioned here. But Yuna kept working. And finally, she had something. "Commander Minho, I need a volunteer ship," she said over the communication link. "For what?" Minho asked. "To test a new type of collector. If I am right, we can harvest energy from the storms instead of just hiding from them." Minho was quiet for a moment. "If you are wrong, the ship will be destroyed instantly. I will send the Horizon. Captain Nari volunteered her ship for dangerous tests." Nari was young for a ship captain, only 28, but she had a gift for understanding machines. When Yuna explained the theory behind the dark matter collector, Nari understood immediately. "We fly into the edge of the storm and activate the collector," Nari said, checking the installation on her ship. "The collector channels the dark matter into our power systems instead of letting it hit the hull." "In theory," Yuna said. "In theory is better than nothing," Nari replied. The next storm appeared on sensors 2 days later. While the rest of the fleet moved away, the Horizon flew toward it. Minho watched from his command ship, along with everyone else in the fleet who could access the sensor feeds. The Horizon reached the storm's edge. Nari activated the collector. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the ship's power readings spiked to levels that should have been impossible. The collector was working. Dark matter flowed through specially designed channels and converted into pure energy. "It works," Nari reported, her voice tight with barely controlled excitement. "Power at 400% of normal capacity. Shields are holding. We can ride the edge of the storm." Yuna felt tears running down her face. They had found a way to turn the Outer Dark's greatest danger into a resource. Over the next year, every ship in the fleet was fitted with dark matter collectors. But Nari was not done innovating. She saw another problem. The normal jump drives that worked in Council space barely functioned here. The space itself was different, twisted by dark matter and strange gravity. She locked herself in her workshop and emerged 6 months later with designs for something new. She called it the Ghost Drive. "It does not work like a jump drive," she explained to the fleet engineers. "It does not punch through space. Instead, it slides through the gaps in space. The Outer Dark has cracks, places where normal physics do not fully apply. The Ghost Drive lets us slip through those cracks." The first test run was terrifying. Nari's ship seemed to flicker and become transparent. Then it vanished completely. Sensors could not find it. 3 hours passed with no signal. Minho was about to declare the ship lost when it suddenly reappeared, 50 million kilometers away. "That was amazing," Nari reported. "We can cross distances in hours that would take weeks with normal drives." With dark matter collectors and ghost drives, the fleet finally had a real chance. They could harvest energy and move through the Outer Dark in ways the Council had never imagined possible. Doyun, the colony administrator, coordinated the search for a place to settle. They needed systems with planets, with resources, with some protection from the worst of the storms. Scouts went out in ships equipped with the new ghost drives, searching the darkness. It was a scout named Quan who found Sanctuary. It was a stellar nursery, a region where new stars were being born from clouds of gas and dust. The radiation should have made it uninhabitable, but the stellar nursery created a natural barrier against the dark matter storms. Inside, there were 7 stable systems with 23 planets. "This is it," Doyen said when he saw the reports. "This is where we build." The fleet moved to Sanctuary over the next 3 months. They established bases on 6 planets and built a massive station in orbit around the central star. Shipyards were constructed, factories were built, humanity began to dig in and prepare for the long term. Children were born in Sanctuary, the first generation born in exile. Doctors noticed something strange about them. They tolerated radiation better than their parents. Their spatial awareness was sharper. Evolution was already beginning to change humanity, adapting them to their new home. By the 5th year of exile, the fleet had grown. New ships were being built using resources mined from asteroids and gas giants. The population had actually increased despite the losses. Humanity was not just surviving. They were adapting. Minho sent a message back toward Council space. It was a simple distress call, asking for help, for supplies, for any acknowledgement that humanity still existed. The message was sent on all frequencies the Council monitored. There was no answer. The Council did not respond. As far as they were concerned, humanity had gone into the Outer Dark to die, and that was the end of it. In Sanctuary, Minho gathered the fleet commanders and colony leaders. They have abandoned us completely. We are on our own now, truly alone. Good, Nari said. We do not need them. We never did. Around the table, others nodded. The fear and desperation from the early days of exile had burned away. What remained was something harder. Something colder. Humanity had been cast out and left to die. But they had not died. And now, in the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge, they were becoming something new. Something the Council would learn to fear. 20 years after the exile, Marshal Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of Bastion Station and looked out at humanity's hidden empire. 50 star systems now flew human flags. Thousands of ships moved between them, carrying trade goods and people. The population had grown to 80 billion. Hyunwoo had been a young lieutenant when the exile began. Now he commanded the Void Fleet, the military force that protected humanity's new territory. His hair was starting to gray at the temples, and he had scars from 3 different battles against the Outer Dark's dangers. The Void Fleet was not like the old Earth navies. Every ship was built for warfare in impossible conditions. They used dark matter collectors not just for power, but as weapons. They could generate gravitational fields that crushed other ships. Their hulls were made from materials that should not exist, forged in the hearts of dying stars and cooled in absolute zero. Ji-won, the head of weapons research, walked up beside him. She was younger, barely 30, but she had a mind that saw connections others missed. In her labs, she had teams working on projects the Council would have called impossible. "The new prototypes are ready," she said. "Do you want to see them?" Hyunwoo followed her down to the secure research level. The laboratory was massive, filled with machines and test equipment. In the center sat 3 devices that looked like black spheres, each about the size of a fist. "Singularity cores," Ji-won explained. "We compressed dark matter to the point where it creates a micro-black hole, then we suspended it in a magnetic field. Each one contains enough energy to power a city for a year, or destroy a battleship in seconds." "How many can we make?" Hyunwoo asked. "With current production, about 500 per month. In 6 months, we can equip the entire fleet." Hyunwoo picked up one of the spheres carefully. It was surprisingly heavy. The Council said dark matter could not be weaponized, that it was too unstable. Ji-won smiled. "The Council says many things. Most of them are lies they tell to keep younger species in their place." That was the truth humanity had learned in exile. The Council did not share technology because they were afraid. Afraid that younger species would surpass them. Afraid of losing control. They had exiled humanity not because humans were dangerous, but because humans learned too fast. Sora, the chief archaeologist, had proven that beyond any doubt. She had been exploring a planet in the 40th system humanity had settled. It was a dead world, nothing but rock and ice. But her instruments had detected something beneath the surface, something old. The dig took 3 years. What they found was a city, buried under a kilometer of ice. The city was ancient, older than any council species, and it was human. Not exactly human, but close enough. The bodies they found had the right number of fingers, the right bone structure. DNA analysis was impossible after so much time, but the evidence was clear. "This changes everything," Sora said when she presented her findings to the Leadership Council. "Humans did not evolve on Earth. We were placed there or we fled there. These ruins are at least 50,000 years old. Humanity existed before the Council, before the galaxy was mapped. We were here first." She showed them the inscriptions they had found. The language was different from any modern tongue, but there were patterns, mathematical formulas, star charts, and warnings. "They were exiled too," Sora explained. The inscriptions talk about a council of old species that feared them, that cast them out into the darkness. The same thing happened to us because it is what the council does. When a species becomes too advanced, too independent, they get rid of it. Can we read more of the inscriptions? Hyunwoo asked. We have been working on it. The mathematics is actually easier to understand than the language, and what we have translated is incredible. They had technology the Council still does not have. Weapons, drives, ways to manipulate space and time itself. Over the next 5 years, Sora's teams excavated 7 more ancient sites. Each one revealed new technology, new knowledge. Jiwon's researchers worked to recreate what they found. Not everything worked. Some of the technology required materials or conditions they could not reproduce. But enough worked. The ghost drives got better. Ships could now cross distances instantly, appearing hundreds of light years away in seconds. The weapons became more powerful, and humanity learned to do something the Council had always said was impossible. They learned to create void-born soldiers. The process started as an accident. Workers who spent too much time in the deep void, far from any star or planet, began to change. Their bodies adapted to survive in near vacuum. Their blood could carry oxygen more efficiently. Their skin became resistant to radiation. Military doctors studied the changes and found ways to enhance them. Now humanity had soldiers who could survive for hours in hard vacuum, who could operate outside a ship with no suit, their bodies protected by internal fields generated from implanted dark matter cores. Minji, the intelligence director, watched the first void-born battalion train and felt a cold satisfaction. These soldiers were nightmares made real. They could board enemy ships through hull breaches. They could survive weapon impacts that would kill normal humans, and they felt no fear of the void. The Council would lose their minds if they knew these existed, her assistant said. The Council thinks we are dead, Minji replied. We need to keep it that way, for now. Minji had her own secrets. Over the past 15 years, she had been sending agents back into Council space. They were deep-cover operatives who looked like members of Council species. Genetic modification, surgery, and training made them perfect copies. Her agents reported back regularly. The Council had not forgotten about humanity, but they assumed the exile had done its job. Occasionally, someone would propose sending a ship to check on what had happened to the human fleet. The proposals always failed. No one wanted to waste resources on a dead species. That suited humanity perfectly. Let the Council think they had won. Let them feel safe and superior. Meanwhile, humanity built and prepared. The Obsidian Armada grew in secret shipyards hidden in stellar nurseries and behind rogue planets. 10,000 warships, each one more advanced than anything the Council had. Each one crewed by humans who had been born knowing they were unwanted, exiled, abandoned. Marshal Hyunwoo walked through one of the shipyards looking at rows of black warships. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, all sharp angles and dark metal. Each ship had a name: Defiance, Retribution, Vengeance, Remember. When do we return? Nari asked. She was an admiral now, in command of a battle group. Still young, still brilliant, still angry about the exile. Soon, Hyunwoo said. Minji says the Council is having internal problems. 3 species are arguing over trade routes. 2 others are fighting a border dispute. They are distracted. Good. Let them fight among themselves. It will make our return easier. Do-yun, now the civilian leader of humanity's hidden empire, joined them. He was old now, his hair white, his face lined with age, but his mind was still sharp. Are we ready for this? He asked quietly. Once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. The Council will either accept us or try to destroy us. Hyunwoo looked at the warships, at the soldiers training in the distance, at the cities visible on the planet below. 80 billion humans, all living in systems the Council said were uninhabitable, all thriving in conditions that should have killed them. We have been ready for 20 years, Hyunwoo said. The question is whether the Council is ready for us. The Council's border sensors had been watching the edge of the outer dark for 30 years without seeing anything unusual. Just endless darkness and the chaotic energy storms that made the region impossible to navigate. So when the sensors started screaming warnings, the technicians thought it was a malfunction. Then the readings got worse. Massive spatial distortions, gravitational anomalies appearing in patterns that could not be natural, energy signatures that matched nothing in the Council database. "Get me the sector commander," the chief technician said, his hands shaking. The sector commander looked at the data and felt ice in his stomach. Something was coming out of the outer dark. Something big. The Obsidian Armada emerged in perfect formation. 10,000 warships, black as night, moving in coordinated patterns that showed decades of training. At the center of the formation was the flagship Defiance, and on its bridge stood Marshal Hyunwoo. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. Beside him stood Captain Jiho, ancient and frail, kept alive by medical technology. Jiho had insisted on being here for this moment. He had been there when the Council exiled humanity. He would be here when humanity returned. "Open all channels," Hyunwoo ordered. "All Council frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channels open, Marshal." Hyunwoo spoke clearly. His voice transmitted across thousands of light years. "This is Marshal Hyunwoo of the Human Void Fleet. Humanity requests permission to return to Council space." Silence answered him. On 100 Council worlds, beings stopped what they were doing and stared at communication screens in shock. Humanity? The species they had exiled 3 decades ago? Impossible. The Council convened an emergency session. The same chamber where they had passed judgment on humanity, now filled with panicked voices. "This is impossible," one counselor said. "No species can survive the outer dark." "Apparently humanity can," another replied. "What do they want?" "They said they want to return." Hana stood in the gallery, her heart pounding. She was a full council member now, representing a small species that had joined after humanity's exile. When she heard Hyunwoo's message, she felt tears on her face. They had survived. Humanity had actually survived. The Council activated their long-range sensors and focused on the Armada. What they saw made them afraid. The human ships were using technology the Council did not recognize. Their power outputs were impossible, and there were so many of them. "Mobilize the peacekeeping fleet," the head counselor ordered. "All available ships. We cannot let them enter Council space without knowing their intentions." The peacekeeping fleet was the Council's pride. 5,000 warships, representing the combined military might of 12 species. They gathered at the border, forming a defensive wall between the Armada and Council space. Fleet Commander Telvon, a member of the oldest Council species, commanded the peacekeeping fleet. He had fought in wars that lasted centuries. He had seen weapons that could destroy stars, but looking at the human fleet made him nervous in a way he had not felt in decades. "Attention, human fleet," he transmitted. "This is Commander Telvon of the Council Peacekeeping Fleet. You were exiled from this space. You are not welcome to return. Disarm your ships and submit to quarantine protocols, or we will consider your presence an act of war." On the Defiance, Jiho laughed, a dry sound like wind through dead leaves. "Some things never change. They still think they can give us orders." Hyunwoo considered his response carefully. Then he opened a direct channel to Telvon. "Commander, with respect, we are no longer the humans you exiled. We have spent 30 years learning to survive in conditions you called impossible. We have mastered technology you said could not be controlled. We are not asking to crawl back and beg for acceptance. We are informing you that we are returning as equals. Stand aside." "I cannot do that," Telvon replied. "Then watch," Hyunwoo said. He gave a signal. Every ship in the Obsidian Armada activated its singularity shield at the same time. Around each ship, space itself bent and twisted, a sphere of controlled gravitational force that made the ships effectively untouchable. "All ships advance," Hyunwoo ordered. The Armada moved forward as one. The peacekeeping fleet opened fire. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, everything in their arsenal. The weapons hit the singularity shields and simply vanished, pulled into micro-black holes and crushed out of existence. Telvon watched in horror as his fleet's attack accomplished nothing. "Focus all fire on their flagship. Concentrate everything on one target." 1,000 ships fired at the Defiance. The singularity shield flared brighter, absorbing the energy. Inside the ship, Jiho smiled. "They still do not understand. We learned from the best teacher, necessity." Hyunwoo gave another order. "Ghost drive activation, formation scatter." The entire Armada vanished. The Council ships' sensors went crazy trying to track them. Then the human ships reappeared, scattered through the Council formation. One human ship next to each Council vessel, surrounding them, trapping them. Telvon looked at his tactical display and felt true fear. The humans had moved through space in ways that should be impossible. They had outmaneuvered his entire fleet in seconds. "Stand down," Hyunwoo transmitted to all Council ships. "We have not fired a single shot. We have no desire to kill you, but understand this clearly. You cannot stop us. You cannot defeat us. Your weapons are useless against our shields. Your ships cannot match our speed. We have surpassed you." On the Defiance's bridge, Nari monitored the ghost drives. "All ships holding position. We can maintain this formation for hours if needed." In the Council chamber, panic had set in. They were watching the confrontation through live feeds from the peacekeeping fleet. The humans had made the Council's military look helpless without firing a shot. "We need to negotiate," Hana said, standing. "Before this turns into a war, we cannot win." "We cannot show weakness," the head counselor argued. "We already have," another member said quietly. "Look at the displays. They surrounded our fleet in seconds. If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead." Hana stepped forward. "Let me talk to them. I was there when we exiled them. Maybe they will listen to me." The Council had no better options. They opened a channel and connected Hana to the Defiance. "Marshal Hyunwoo, this is Counselor Hana. Do you remember me?" Hyunwoo smiled slightly. "The diplomat who tried to save us. Yes, I remember. What do you want, Counselor?" "To avoid unnecessary bloodshed. You have made your point. You have shown that humanity survived and became strong. But what do you want? Revenge? Conquest?" Jiho leaned forward and spoke into the channel. "What we want is very simple. We want what was stolen from us. Respect, recognition, the right to exist without being cast aside when we become inconvenient." "The Council will never accept," Hana began. "The Council does not have a choice," Hyunwoo interrupted. "Look at your tactical displays. We have ships positioned around every Council homeworld. Our ghost drives brought them there hours ago. We are broadcasting this conversation on every frequency. Everyone in Council space can hear us. Your own populations are watching you realize that you are not as powerful as you pretended to be." Hana checked her own display and saw that he was telling the truth. Human ships hung in orbit around a dozen worlds, waiting, not attacking, just waiting. "What are your terms?" she asked quietly. "A summit. All Council species, and humanity. We negotiate a new arrangement, one where we are equals, not subjects, one where technology is shared, not hoarded, one where no species is exiled for becoming too advanced." Hana closed her eyes. The old order was ending. The Council's age of dominance was over. "I will arrange it. But Hyunwoo, you need to pull your ships back. If they stay in orbit around our worlds, some species will see it as an invasion." "They will stay exactly where they are," Hyunwoo replied. Until we have an agreement. Insurance counselor, surely you understand. The channel closed. Hana looked around the council chamber at the frightened, angry faces. Everything had changed, and it could never go back to how it was. The Galactic Summit was held on neutral ground, a space station that orbited a dead star halfway between Council space and the outer dark. Every Council species sent representatives. Humanity sent Marshal Hyunwoo, Counselor Doyen, and Dr. Yuna. Captain Jiho came as well, determined to see this through to the end. The conference room was tense. Council members sat on one side of the massive table, humans on the other. Between them was empty space that felt like a battlefield. The head counselor, the same energy being that had exiled humanity, spoke first. You have demonstrated your military strength, but strength alone does not make you worthy of council membership. You were exiled for good reason. What has changed? Do-yoon stood slowly. He was old now, ancient even by human standards, but his voice was strong. What has changed is that we learned the truth. We learned what the council really is. Not a gathering of equals, but a prison. You keep younger species weak and dependent. You hoard technology and knowledge. You exile anyone who might challenge your control. That is not true, one counselor protested. Is it not? Yuna stood and activated a holographic display. We found ruins in the outer dark, cities that were human or close enough. They were 50,000 years old. Humanity existed before the council. We were exiled before millennia ago for the same reason, because we advanced too quickly. Murmurs ran through the council delegation. Hana leaned forward, studying the images. How can you be certain these ruins were human? DNA analysis is impossible after so long, Yuna admitted, but the skeletal structure matches. The mathematics in their inscriptions match human thought patterns, and most telling, we found records of their exile, records that describe a council of old species who feared them. Sora appeared on a video link from the Defiance. We have translated about 40% of the inscriptions. They tell a story of humanity reaching for the stars, advancing rapidly, and being cast out by those who came before, left to die in the darkness. But they did not die. They adapted. They survived. Until something else killed them. We do not know what. But we found their warning. They said that exile was the council's pattern, that any species who showed too much promise would be removed. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species denied it. Others looked uncertain. A few, the younger ones, looked angry. Hyunwoo let them argue for a while, then slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Enough. We did not come here to debate ancient history. We came to discuss the future. What future can there be? The head counselor asked. You threaten us with your fleet. You surround our worlds. This is not negotiation. This is extortion. No, Jiho said, his old voice cutting through the noise. This is what you should have done 30 years ago. Talk to us as equals. We are not asking to conquer you. We are not asking for revenge, though we have earned it. We are asking for partnership. Doyen activated another display. It showed a document, written in both human script and council standard language. The Void Charter, our proposal for a new arrangement. Technology sharing between all species. No restrictions based on age or power. No exile of species who become too advanced. Open exploration rights to all regions of space, and most importantly, mutual defense against external threats. What external threats? A counselor asked. Yuna's expression became serious. The outer dark is not empty. We have encountered things out there, remnants of ancient civilizations, automated defense systems still operating after millions of years. Something destroyed the original human civilization. Something might still be out there. The Council has been looking inward for too long, fighting among yourselves over trade routes and borders. You have forgotten to look outward. And you expect us to simply accept you back after you threatened us? The energy being asked. No, Hyunwoo said. We expect you to make a choice. Accept us as equals and partners, or refuse and watch your influence crumble, because we are not the only ones watching this summit. He activated a communication link. On screens around the room appeared representatives from 3 council species who had been silent members, younger races that had joined the council in the past century. We have been talking to them, Minji said, appearing on another screen. My agents have been in council space for 15 years. We know which species are tired of being controlled, which ones want access to better technology, which ones resent being treated like children. If you reject humanity, they will leave the council and join us instead. It was a bluff, mostly. Only one of the 3 species had committed to leaving. But the threat was real enough. The council's unity was fragile. A counselor who resembled flowing water spoke up. You are asking us to give up control, to share everything we have built over millennia. We are asking you to grow, Doyen replied. Stagnation is death. The council has not had a new idea in 1,000 years. You recycle the same technology, the same politics, the same fears. Humanity offers something different: innovation, energy, a willingness to take risks. And what do you offer that would benefit us? Another counselor asked. Yuna smiled. Dark matter technology. We can harvest energy from the storms in the outer dark. Infinite power. We can also use it to stabilize dying stars. According to our intelligence, 3 council species currently face stellar collapse. Your home stars are dying. You have maybe 200 years before they go nova. We can save them. The room went silent. The 3 species in question stared at Yuna in shock. The council had been searching for solutions to stellar collapse for decades. It was considered an unsolvable problem. You can do this? One of them asked, hope and desperation in their voice. We have the technology. We have tested it on smaller stars. It works. But we will only share it if humanity is accepted as a full council member, as equals. It was the turning point. The species facing extinction looked at each other, then at the rest of the council. Their choice was clear. Accept humanity or watch their civilizations die. Hana stood. The council needs time to discuss this privately. Marshal Hyunwoo, will you give us 1 day to deliberate? Hyunwoo nodded. 1 day, but our ships stay where they are. The humans left the conference room. Behind them, the council erupted into fierce debate. In the human delegation's quarters, Jiho sat down heavily. Do you think they will accept? They do not have a choice, Hyunwoo said. Not really. We hold every advantage. But we offered them something they need, Yuna added. That is important. We are not just threatening. We are offering to help. 1 day later, the council reconvened. The energy being at the head looked diminished somehow, less bright than before. The council has voted, it announced. By a narrow margin, we accept humanity's proposal. The Void Charter will be implemented. Humanity will be granted full council membership. Technology sharing will begin immediately, starting with the stellar stabilization process. Hyunwoo nodded once. Our ships will withdraw from your worlds within the hour. But understand this. We are not the humans you exiled. We will not be controlled. We will not be silenced. And we will never forget what you tried to do to us. We understand, Hana said softly. Welcome back to civilization, though I suspect civilization will need to adapt to you rather than the other way around. Later, on the Defiance, Sora presented her final discovery to the leadership. There is one more thing from the ancient ruins, a prophecy carved in the deepest chamber. It says that humanity would return, that the exiled would become the guardians, that those cast into darkness would bring light back to a failing galaxy. Do you believe in prophecies? Jiho asked. Sora shrugged. I believe humanity survived 2 exiles. I believe we turned the outer dark from a death sentence into our greatest strength. I believe the Council just learned that trying to get rid of us was the worst mistake they ever made. Marshal Hyunwoo looked out at the stars. Human ships were already moving, taking positions at the edge of Council space, not as invaders, but as protectors. The outer dark was still out there, still dangerous. But now humanity stood between it and the rest of the galaxy. The Council wanted to exile us from the stars, he said quietly. Instead, they taught us to master them. They made us into exactly what they feared, and now they have to live with that choice. Jiho smiled, the expression of a man who had lived to see justice. We survived, we adapted, we conquered the impossible. That is what humanity does. That is what we will always do. Far below, on the station where the summit had been held, representatives from younger council species were already meeting with human diplomats, asking about technology, asking about the outer dark, asking how humanity had done the impossible. And humanity, as always, was ready to teach anyone willing to learn. The exiles had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same.